Live from historic Fort Andros in downtown Brunswick, your way to wake up on the Midcoast. The Midcoast Morning Buzz. Richard Kazimer, Jim Bleikamp, Radio 9, WCME.
With us on the phone from Augusta is State Representative Mattie Daughtry of Brunswick, whose bill allowing local appointments to the board of the Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority, or MIRA, has been approved by the House, and now it moves on to the Senate. Mattie, good morning. You have to be excited considering the opposition you had with this bill.
Yes, I am. Good morning.
It occurs to me, before we start, I just want to note that the life of the average state legislator in Maine and elsewhere would probably be significantly less complicated if it weren't for those pesky morning radio hosts who always want an interview.
In right now,
who always want an interview so early.
Exactly.
You sound remarkably chipper for this early hour, and I know you were up late last night.
Well, I think that's just part of the legislative life. It's a 24/7 kind of job, but I'm just excited to be up here and representing my district. And everything that happened yesterday is still very surprising, and I'm still very excited about that.
Okay. Well, you've, in a way, answered what was going to be my first question, Mattie. You say it was surprising, but I also got the feeling from you talking to you about this a couple of weeks ago after the defeat in the Legislative Committee that even then you saw the possibility for a turnaround on this thing.
I did see a possibility for a turnaround, but really you never know how these things are going to go. I lobbied for it heavily. I, made my case to all of my fellow colleagues, but when I stepped on the floor yesterday, I only had about 24 confirmed votes from my side. And what's so incredible about this victory is that we were able to move the minority report. We were able to overcome a committee report that said it shouldn't pass, and we're able to overwhelmingly get the minority ought to pass report to win on the floor.
Well, you said you came on the floor yesterday with 24 confirmed votes for your position, again, to add 2 locally appointed seats to the Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority, one to be appointed by the Brunswick Town Council, the other by the Thompson Board of Selectmen. What do you think were the compelling arguments in your favor?
I think one of the things I really focused on was the idea of, home rule, and also the fact that almost all other redevelopment authorities in the nation have this type of local representation. And I reminded my colleagues, and I gave a very passionate floor speech about the fact that Brunswick and Thompson have the most at stake in this redevelopment. We're the ones paying for the majority of services on Brunswick Landing. If there's a fire out there, there isn't a regional or state fire department that's going to come save the day. It's the Brunswick Fire Department. If there's an accident or something, it's the Brunswick Police Department that responds, and same thing for the Thompson-Mannix for Thompson. So, it's our local property tax money that's going to support this endeavor. And that aside, it also is a huge impact on the future of our community. Can people come and live here? Can they find reliable jobs? Do we have a good housing stock? So while we need a strong regional input into the redevelopment, we really need to make sure that we're honoring the host community since they have the most at stake.
Mattie, let me ask you about one particular factor. I have to say that I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of local political people at the municipal level, some at the state level here in Brunswick about this bill, and I have to say I found no one other than your chief opponent in all this, the Brunswick Senator Stan Gerzowski, opposing this. And Stan's argument, as I understand it, is we need to be regionally oriented and regionally mindful here, and we can talk about that some more later on. But I have talked to a number of people who, while they favor your bill, have said, ultimately it's really symbolic. It's not all that significant because all you're really talking about here is adding 2 seats to an existing 11-member board for a total of 13 members. In the big picture, isn't all that important. What do you say to that?
I think that's completely wrong. I think it is very important. I think this has been a long-running complaint of our community that we haven't been tied in and coordinating with the MIRA board. And even if it is only 2 seats, it's a direct channel of communication between our communities and the base. This is someone whose purpose is to advocate for our community and to sort of find out what's going on. And, their goal is to be our voices. And I really think that, combined with a great mix of regional input, state input, and folks with economic redevelopment expertise, really will move this board forward.
Have you had any conversations, private or otherwise, in the last few days with Stan Gerzowski, your opponent on all this?
I have. Stan and I marched together in the Memorial Day Parade, and we've just agreed to disagree. We really do see eye to eye on a lot of other issues, but this one we're just, arguing on this one. But
well, do you
we
expect
can talk about it?
This bill now goes to the Senate, where he is a force. He's a part of the majority, part of the leadership. He's a committee chair. Is he going to mount a significant, aggressive effort against this in the Senate?
I imagine. I reminded him that he taught me a lot of his tricks, and I'm lobbying as hard as I can in the Senate, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. So you were at the parade the other day in Brunswick. You were there.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not questioning that you were. I saw Stan, I saw Jerry Favreau, I saw a bunch of people. I missed you. I'm sorry to say that.
Well, actually, we were told, I was with Seth Berry, the majority leader for the Democrats, and with Andrew Vason, and we were told to march with the Saginaw Dems, and what we didn't, is that everyone was in front of us. So I was in the back. I was wearing a big red fascinator, so maybe that's how I...
Well, the bigger question is, Mattie, is were you doing the parade wave?
Yes.
Okay.
I was doing, we call it the touch the pearls, screw in the light bulb.
Okay, well, there were an awful lot of people marching and watching that parade, so it was easy to miss people on Monday. Just one final thing, Mattie. Do you have a prediction as to how this goes? Your bill goes in the Senate. Will it survive and pass in the Senate?
I'm not quite sure, but there is one thing now that it's won in the House that we can do if it doesn't succeed in the Senate is we can call a committee of conference and insist and get a few representatives from each side and try to settle it that way. So there are a few different ways the bill can go, but I think the most important thing is we've gotten the conversation started. We've convinced a lot of folks up here about how important it is to have local coordination with the Mira Board, and I think that's a huge victory.
Well, it's certainly worth pointing out, and I'm not sure that we've pointed it out to a sufficient extent, really. This passed by a vote of 88 to 55. By any objective standard, that's a convincing margin. So,
absolutely.
So congratulations. And
thank you.
This is the never-ending conversation. The Regional Redevelopment Authority and Brunswick Landing and the former Naval Air Base, so we'll talk more about this for certain.
Of course.
State Representative Mattie Daughtry of Brunswick, her bill allowing local appointments to the board of the Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority has passed the House. It now moves on to the Senate. Mattie, thank you so much for being on. Keep up the good fight, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you for having me on. Have a great morning.
You too. Radio 9 WCME.